Mutual. What a great day. What a
Hello.
Hey, what's up, Donna? Give us a minute. We're gonna fade everything out and then go live, right?
Okay,
Right.
good.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop talk show. Well, listen, y'all. Of course, if y'all missed it at 6 o'clock, y'all know y'all missed the vote with our beloved brother, Chief of Staff for the city of Chief of Staff for our city right here in Newark, New Jersey, where our brother Mayor Raz J. Baraka is the mayor, and of course our brother who is the Chief of Staff, Amiri Midi Baraka, was sitting in the chair tonight, conducting the vote along with brother Conrad and of course our sister Tamika Mallory, who perhaps may have gotten hung up down at some of the events down in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus. However, the two brothers held it up for, and what an awesome show. And then, of course, our sister just left the building, Asia Norton, with her two outstanding educators. What a great show they did, Si.
That's right.
In terms of talking about, what's
young
happening.
educators bringing forward.
What's going on in the city. Now we're about to go down to Washington, D.C., and we're going to get an update from one of our co-hosts, Councilwoman Donna K. Williams. She's going to bring us up to date on what's going on down there, always in the field. So, Donna, what's going on?
Hey, everybody. Just coming out of chairman's reception. Been in sessions all day, and this is just, as always, coming down here, getting engaged and involved and updated on what's new in our community area. We brought down 85 constituents to come down and experience the annual legislative conference for a day. So that in itself was a highlight. Congressman Page, his constituents, Brother Zaid was on the bus with the students tomorrow. And I would love to.
Raz Baraka got a chance to talk to him. Yeah.
Just to know, just hearing them talk as they were coming out of each session or each event, she's walking around looking for Corey Wise. She wants to talk to him from the exonerated side. So, they came down focused with a mission. They got to talk to Stephon Clark's brother, Devontae, and from out in California, situation that happened there. So I think there was.
I grabbed the young Mr. Clark, and for our listeners who are not familiar with him and the story that brought him to that stage. Stephon Clark was the young man in Sacramento, California, that was shot down by police officers, and his grandmother under that rubric, we thought he had a gun. And Devontae really turned it up in that community for his brother, and has since gone through some other changes in terms of his own development. I said, well, look, I want you to know that right here where I am in the city of New York, on the forefront of for civilian accountability of our police reform effort, and you need to be locked in on this and let them not divert you from your mission, son. The question of civilian oversight of and accountable policing is still the issue for our people on this thing. The big for him especially, he very much appreciated that. When we were walking out down there with Ayanna Presley, right, the sister of the Four, right, the much maligned in the media Four. This young sister had a standing room only audience, and the average age was from her age and down. And that particular was on the whole question of young black girls and young black women being discriminated against in education in the criminal justice system and being overpunished and railroaded into the prison system. Powerful dynamics. There's some young energy that I hope our elders wake up, smell the coffee, start paying attention to, because we got to be we're a little too polite in this game, and we're not getting the respect and the power that we need to be fighting for.
And to that point, and also the STEM, the kids from STEM, they went to a session on STEM yesterday as well. So it was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But just to hear that they came down looking for something particular. And so while they didn't get to see Corey Wise yesterday, I got to do a panel today from Frederica Wilson, representative from the Miami area, and she had Brother Youssef and Brother Corey on their panel. And it was a program called 5,000 Mentors Strong, where she mentors students through high school, and upon completion of the program, she secures their education in college. But just to hear these students, how prepared they are, and they, were asking questions to the panel. They got to talk directly with Corey and Youssef and the other panelists. It was a dynamic, and the top of the platform, who's going to teach the young black men. So that was a dynamic panel today. But just listening to Youssef and how he was talking about why he got caught up in the situation with Central Park, but how it was an educator in the system, the prison system, that changed his trajectory. When he asked Brother you, and he said, and I think Brother Youssef said his initial response was, I'm one of the people that got, and he said, no, I know who you are, but who are you? And he said that just changed his whole trajectory and started him thinking in a different way, that even though he was in bondage didn't have his mind. So that was really, and talking to young brothers that are coming from, that are 9th to 12th grade, that are coming from broken homes, challenging homes, whatever the case may be, for them to hear somebody in such a restricted system, he is now, has his PhD, I believe he's teaching as well, and he still has some challenges, and I'm sure that'll always be a part of, who he is, being behind the wall. He is still moved forward in spite of. And he said that Corey Wise had said something to him. Like it was something as simple as that 45 had put an article out on them about what was going on during that time. And Corey said, yo, this dude just put a bounty out on our life. And you said he didn't think of it like that until Corey said, yo, he put a bounty on our life. So, it was a good conversation, that session today.
Let me add to that, because that comes from a very personal place for me, because I was a part of those protests back then. Those who do not remember, especially our younger listeners, the sitting president of the United States, then a real estate tycoon of some sort, took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty for these young men who were being railroaded into prison. That's what's in the White House, right? And we need not forget how polarizing New York City, America's most liberal city, how polarizing and how racist and how potentially dangerous things were for a whole lot of folks on both sides of the question. And we used to have this old thing that we used to say in the prison ministry, the Nation of Islam, you don't serve the time, you make the time serve you. So when Youssef was talking, that's what was happening with him, right? He was already a clean-cut young man. When he went inside, he was innocent, right? But he realizes while he's inside, you make that time serve you. And he started that process of getting those degrees and whatnot. And now he's a full-fledged social scientist doing some real serious, important engagement work with credentials in tow. And that's an important example and lesson for all young black men to appreciate. Right.
And now that you said that, right, then he went on to say further that that there were, so now you think of how many years ago was that? But now we have these calls that are going out, these, what do you call them, these different calls that go to these white supremacist groups and things like that. And at that time, he said that article spoke to groups of such a sort, and he said people came out and said, let's hang them in a tree in Central Park. So good, liberal New York, but you had the white supremacist groups coming out saying, let's go and get those guys and hang them in a tree in New York. So yes, these guys are here to tell their stories, but had everything gone according to what people had intended, these brothers might have been buried to death.
It was very dangerous. It's one of the worst things in the world to be accused of, to be convicted of, to be sent into prison for.
Hey, Donna, did they say anything about the movie? Did they talk about that?
No, because they really let the crowd lead the conversation. But what they what Yusef did sound on is that I need you guys to understand the title when they see us. And he said it's just not when they see us, it's also when they see you. What do they see when they see us? So that's one of the references that he did make to the movie.
Yeah.
You know, because he said by now everybody's seen it, but I need you to understand that the same way that they tried to put us in the box and define what we were going to do, when they see you, they try to do the same thing. But going back to your trajectory, as long as you know who you are and you know, and all your greatness and everything, you can do whatever you want to do. So and you know, Corey said, I think a young man said something to being fair, and Corey said something to the sense like, look, it can always be fair, just know the game. So, you know, Corey was like, you know, you just know, and I think Corey, they refer to Corey as Corey Lion, I think now, you know, and he came through the struggle, and he said, listen, I came through, but we all can come through. And he just said, just know, you know, just know what's going on around.
Let me just take the discussion to the place we've been talking about all evening, man, because we got to do that. Now, Donna, you're there, you know, as an elected participant in these proceedings, and you know we're a minute away from a national election. We've got a sitting son of a Klansman in the White House. What were the critical points of march that you see coming out of this weekend of activity?
Well, there's a couple of things. They had, so I went to that one. I also went to Congressman Payne's small business. I went to the discussion on Harriet, which Harriet, the movie that's coming out November 1st about Harriet Tubman. They had a couple of sessions on voting about them trying to steal the vote. There was one session called Bridge that I didn't get to go to. And these things, they'll be on YouTube so people can go back and listen to for themselves. But I happened to sit down with a woman from Detroit who works for the Board of Elections. And I also had dinner with another sister who was the first elected black clerk in Shelby County in Tennessee. And one of the things she told me is that she had to fight a lawsuit in Shelby County. So it was almost like the same case as Georgia with Stacey Abrams was running. The administrator, as long as this white administrator was in, none of the Democrats were winning. The election was, it was all going one side. So she realized that there was something funny going on. She took the administrative court. She prevailed because, you know, ballots and numbers and stuff like that. So when they had to bring in their proofs and things like that, it wasn't adding up. So he was removed from office, and ever since then, you know, it's Democrats have been prevailing, you know, with the exception of some seats, but the elections have been going very different. And I say that to say, and one of the questions I asked the sister from Detroit and the sister from Shelby County, are you in favor of paper ballots? Is that the answer? She said that's part of the answer, but it's not the whole answer. And there's still a lot of things that can be done with paper ballots. So I think for me, going into 2020 as we prepare for this major election, people are probably sitting in rooms, figuring out how they could steal elections and things like that. So we have to get out and vote and overwhelm the system and also be very informed about the system. And then the other one was the census. I said in that tonight, and one of the things that the commissioner for the census said is that for everybody to go home and talk to your elected officials and ensure that they have put forth a commission for a complete count, which is something I have to come and pass legislation. But he said if your elected official has not put forth a commission for a complete count, particularly in our community, that we need to be challenging. That's something that's really important because, you know, our redistricting, our funding, everything comes from the census. And if we're only counting at 50%, well, that's how everything else falls into place in terms of our elected officials and things like that.
But Donna, I want to see, two things. I want to see if I can bring you into this larger conversation because I know you said you had attended the Black Women's Roundtable, right?
Yes, that was the first thing I did on Wednesday. Yes.
So we were having this conversation, with Mitty because I was sharing with him the article, What Do Black Women Want? This article by Jonathan Capehart that, he put out on Thursday. So we were talking about this and then, Conrad chimed in and we were hoping to get Tamika on, but she, was unable to join the show tonight. But in this conversation, right, and you are a part of this, Donna, because not only from a black elected official perspective, but from a black woman's perspective, right? So the thing we were saying was, and Conrad said this tonight, he said that it appears that the Democratic Party has already made their selection. We're just going through an exercise of fertility, right? In terms of having these debates, but they already know that they want Joe Biden, to be the candidate for the Democratic Party, and he said it looks like Buttigieg is going to be his vice president, right? And so if that's the case, what we were saying is that why aren't we now negotiating then with the Democratic Party or Joe Biden's people and saying, because remember, what they're saying, Donna, is that it's going to take $1 billion to beat Donald Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's going to take $1 billion, and what what Zaid said was 30% of that should be allocated to black people, right?
Right. 30% of the population,
right.
Proportionality is for how the player gets down.
Right. So we know that, and then based on what Mitty said tonight, he said we ought to be the intelligence, political intelligentsia of our community should be meeting with the Joe Biden's people, the Democratic Party, and saying, don't just expect that black folk are going to come and vote for you this time around. We've got to get something for our people and for our community, right? And remember, one of the things that we learned, Donna, is that Melanie Campbell, who I'm going to reach out to over the weekend, because I told Mitty we're going to invite her on the show next month. But but he was surprised, like I was surprised that this lady doesn't get a salary and everybody knows about her work. And so what I'm saying is if all of those organizations, right, that all of those philanthropy organizations yesterday, you were in the room and none of those organizations, but I think maybe one or two was willing to say what their budget was to get out the black vote. So my question to you, and what I'm saying is, Donna, you as a black woman, I mean, what do you think about what Mitty said tonight in terms of us approaching these, based on what Conrad said? If we know that's happening, why aren't we then going and saying, we've got to get something, not only for you talking about 90% of black women voting Democratic, and then black men are going to come, the black vote are going to come with our sisters. So if you're going to get that, what are we going to get in return?
Well, I think you need to say we need to put our agenda together, and I think that we need to determine our ask. And I said, as we were talking earlier, I said to you that one of the first things, and I encourage everybody, let me just say this, to go on my Facebook page, Councilwoman Donna K. Williams. It's Donna K. Williams, my private page. It's because I filmed Facebook Live, a lot of the sessions that I attended. But one of the things that the Black Women's Roundtable sister, and it's actually a young millennial sister, said, stop sending us to Jerome or sending us to do work when there's no budget for a salary attached.
There you go. There you go.
And people do it because they know that where our heart is, that we're going to do the work. But that comes at a cost because something is suffering. And it's a difference when you have to use by any means necessary.
Right.
But if there's a budget and you're just not factoring the person in doing the work, shame on you. And that's the problem. But as I even told you, and Diane, them working with me in my council position knows that it's not only fighting the big corporate organization, is something that we have to stop doing amongst ourselves, particularly in our urban communities.
Yeah.
We don't want to send our elected officials out for training. And it's the craziest thing. I've had colleagues tell me that coming down to the congressional black caucus is a waste of time. Some of our biggest grants are from federal grants.
Right.
This is your federal money right here. So for people, they don't understand the importance of it. They don't understand that you're in the rooms oftentimes with the grantor and the policymakers, because how many times have we written a policy with an unfunded mandate? But now you have the money and the policy person in the room. So I just think that we need to understand that there are budgets out there. We have to factor in it, and we have to stop being so small-minded, because it's doing our communities a disservice. And let me just say, on the other side, if I go down on the Capitol Hill and I go to the other party and I walk into their office, guess what they have in there? They have all of their young people in there working. They have a pathway to education for their young people to be exposed. They have everything lined up and everything for them to get the education and information, bring it back to their community, we go back and forth. In the meantime, we're fighting each other and fighting them as well, too, because they want to keep us. This is nothing new about keeping us uninformed. And I'm just, how do you think you're going to serve? Legislation is dynamic, policy is dynamic. What I learned, I've been in office since 2008. Do you think what I learned in 2008 is applicable here in 2019? It's not. You know, it changes, and in a society right now where we're social media, computer, and everything is moving a lot quicker. So for people to think that you can sit in Orange, New Jersey and govern without going out, talking to people, learning, or wherever you're governing from, and not talking to people who make decisions on policy or your funding and things like that, they're very small-minded, and the constituents need to demand better.
That's right. That's a problem.
But
We need
and
to
I
keep
think
pushing.
it's very important.
Right on, Donna, and I appreciate what you said. I also want everybody to appreciate that on the strength of what you have been doing for the last 9 years and taking young people down there. Another young council person from my area was responsible for bringing 50 students from East Orange down, and that's Councilman Mustafa Brown. I wanted to give him that shout out. So somebody is hearing you, and I hope that is falling on those younger ears amongst us that need to step up and start doing those things that some of us, those old small minds, don't want to do because they're in the way.
Wow, I mean, what an accomplishment. 50 students.
That's right.
Wow.
And they were fully engaged.
And Councilman Mustafa Britt, Councilman Burton Liniers, Councilman Ball, and Councilman Talmadge. Now, Zaida, again, we've been doing this for almost 9 years.
Right.
I can call East Orange and say, hey guys, why don't y'all bring down kids? And they get it done in 2 weeks because they're working together. And they're getting it done. And just to give a shout out to Jersey, East Orange brought down 55. We brought down a busload of 30. New Brunswick brought down 3 busloads, and Bonnie Watson Coleman, she brought down 3 busloads.
There you go.
But remember, we're right here in the Essex County Orange area, 4 hours, 3.5 from DC. Councilwoman, Representative Frederica Wilson, she brings 2,000 young people from the Miami-Dade area to this conference.
How many?
So, 2,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so we're sitting here, and when you try to take away something from one person, a Councilwoman Williams or whomever, you're not just stopping me, you're stopping me from bringing information to our young people and empowering our young people to be exposed. And I mean, our kids can literally walk to DC. To come from 2,000 deep from Miami-Dade County, that's serious.
Right. It requires some resources and some commitment too. That's right. So right on to our sister in Florida for doing that.
Yeah, well, and shout out to them brothers from East Orange as well.
Right on.
You know.
Yeah.
And Donna, you had them on last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had them on with you last year.
Yeah, and they'll probably come back when we get back. We'll all probably come to the studio and just talk about the highlights and everything. Now, let me just talk a little bit real quick about Congressman Payne's small business forum.
Okay.
He did a small business forum, and he had local business people from our Central Western District, but a brother who grew up in Montclair that's a diversity officer for eBay, and just talking about the revenue that comes from eBay, and our urban community stores are not even tapping into that. So imagine the beauty supply store on Main Street having a back office where they sell everything on the shelf back to eBay. That whole stream of income. Yeah, I mean, and Angel, they just created are you familiar with angel funding?
Yes.
Where entrepreneurs, okay. So they had a young lady who was prior Wall Street, and she came on and she talked about that as well. And I'll send that to you so we can put it up, or maybe have her in. And she was just talking about entrepreneurs getting involved with angel giving and sharing information. So here is the local people from the Tennessee Western District that can take our small businesses to the next level. Because I know for me in Orange, I talk to a lot of my, when I'm on a beauty supply store on Main Street and I hear somebody drives up from Tom's River because the things that I have on the shelf on Main Street in Orange are not readily available down in Tom's River. Somebody has relocated down in South Jersey. So they come back up here. But just imagine, they can just go in their room and go on their computer. So we have a whole other opportunity for revenue that we haven't even begun to tap in. So Congressman Payne did a tremendous small business forum today that was really, really good. We got to shout out one of the board members from Valley Arts in Orange. He does wealth management, and he really wants to develop the businesses in our area. But one of the things that he said was that it's important that if you're a business person, that you have your personal finances in order, because they always look at your personal finance, even though you have a business finance. So some great kudos there as well. And then tomorrow, I'll go to my annual Congressman Danny K. Davis, who's the author of the Reentry Act. He does a whole brain trust tomorrow on reentry, so I'll be attending that tomorrow.
And let me ask you this before I forget. What time is DJ Rhino playing?
In 9 minutes.
In 9 minutes. All right.
9 minutes.
And
he just sent me a picture. He looking sharp.
Oh wow! You should share the pictures.
Yes,
Send us the pictures so we can post it.
Yes.
And I mean, if you can, get some photos or something of it, send it to us, so we can.
You gonna get photos, music. You gonna get it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been following your streams.
Because he he need to put his foot all up in it.
Yes,
down there.
right. That's right.
And
he said he's going up. So this is a joint party with Congressman Payne and I forgot the other.
I think his name is Richardson or something.
Richardson from Louisiana.
Right.
So I think they get ready to do a Jersey Town versus Louisiana Town. So be ready.
Yeah. That's why I told Rhino, take no prisoners. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Leave no blood on the floor. You know what I mean?
So that Jersey Town get ready to turn DC up.
Yeah, that's what because DC is still in the go-go. You know that, right?
Yes, I said they was upstairs playing it.
Who?
They had a reception upstairs and they're playing. But I got this brother over here from HUD coming over here talking to me.
Right.
We're on the radio right now. Okay. And I just tell them I had to get to a quiet place. That's why I was delayed in calling you. And he said, after that go-go music loud, they said, you in DC, you gonna
exactly. I mean, that's I mean, if you go to DC, man, they will not let go. They won't let that die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear the butt, you're gonna hear that. I mean,
Yeah, they upstairs doing the butt now.
That's it. I mean, that's the thing about DC, man. And them guys who made that record will forever have a job. They don't play nowhere else but in DC. That one record they will eat on for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But I will. This will make you smile. I met this brother who's in North Carolina, but he's probably military. He's stationed up in Jersey, and he's into jazz, and he's doing a jazz event on my birthday, October 5th.
Where?
And down in Hamlet, North Carolina, but I'm gonna try to get him to call in.
That's Coltrane territory.
Yes, and that's what Coltrane. But here's the thing that he said, that he's doing it as a tribute to Ridley, Professor Ridley from Rutgers North. So he's talking about 6 degrees of separation, and I'll have to see if we can get Professor Ridley to come down to the studio. But he said, but when I was stationed, this is what he said to me, guys. He said, I used to be stationed up in Fort Dix. And he said, but they told us a whole list of places to not go, and that's where I went. He said, I was at Club 88. He said, I went to Sensations. And he said, Sensations is straight illegal.
Wow.
Oh man, that's some time ago. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how old is he now to have gone to all these places? Is he like in his 50s?
He got to be in his 50s,
Yeah.
But he said that, I'll crack it up. He said Sensations, which you talk about going all up the stairs and everything.
Yeah.
Number Sensations, straight illegal.
Yeah.
But a lot of good contacts and just and I didn't tell you also on the first night the Commissioner of Education, Rapola, he was down here. He did give a shout out to the Homicide Commission, and he did say that there's some things that he wanted to implement and some changes that he wants to make. And today, Brother Zaid, I think Stephanie as well. So trying to see about the fundraising arm and getting that done, and that's something that we need to work on immediately.
Well, one thing is for sure, Donna, I mean, you get a lot of good information, so I appreciate that on your part. Just make sure you get some contact numbers just in case, you want to invite some of those people on the show. You know what I mean? And, and definitely, I really want to get focused on, and I'm going to talk to the congressman about this offline after the weekend, because I really do think that, that the Democratic Party, if we know them just based on what they did to Bernie Sanders, they already organizing in their mind who they want to be, right? The Democratic Party's nominee. They already know, right? And I'm saying before we get crapped on, right, we've got to be organizing, because there's no way, Donna, and I know me and you talk about this offline, but there's no way, Donna, that we can just allow these folks just to say, organize your people to vote, go and vote, but I'm not going to put any money behind y'all doing it and put any money behind your organizations. No, we can't allow them to do that.
Did y'all discuss earlier the debate? Did all politics folks, did y'all determine who was the strong person last night?
No, we didn't talk about the debate. We were so heavily into, what's happening with the sisters and the money that we didn't even talk about the debate. I mean, what was your opinion about what you saw last night, Robert?
The part that I did see, I think it's so funny. They all go after Biden. That's so funny.
I think they're supposed to, because he's seen as the leader now.
Right. So Elizabeth Warren was very consistent. I think that Castro with
Julian Castro.
He was good. And actually, Beto O'Rourke had some strong moments last night. And Buttigieg, I think he was very consistent as well. And he determined, he put out there that because people kept asking, what's your experience and so on and so forth. And what's the brother without the tie? He even, so I think, but here's what I will say. Everybody had this strong moment that was on that stage last night. So when the nominees become selected and they select their vice president, they definitely got their cabinet within reach because they got some strong candidates up there. So.
Well, I still think I agree, with Conrad. I think that, these people, what we're going through is really nothing more than, an exercise in fertility. I think that they already know how they're gonna play this thing out. And I'm saying before we get, played out, there again with, one of the things Aid was saying offline is how they do the same okey doke, go visit all of the top churches, go in and make an
Right.
offering at those top churches and get them to go out and organize the votes for them. And then we bring the votes, and then a few people get jobs. And Donald, we know that all too well, right? And that was one of the things that Mitty was saying earlier. He was saying that the reason the majority of these folks don't speak up, he said, because most of them got high paying jobs, and they cannot afford to
Right.
lose their
Yep.
jobs, because not only are their livelihoods dependent on it, but their children and their